Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here, and we're actually going to play this time some Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice and TRE together, and see how well these two mods, as currently done, are playing together. We would give them money for fuel. No. So as I was mentioning before in the I was becoming why I'm interested in World War II episode, we are looking at manpower needs. Okay. What are all of these? I know I've looked at some of these before. I think these are some of these. Yeah, we've seen. Okay. I'll pause. Okay, so what are we doing here? Let's. Yeah, so many of these. Okay. So we have. Okay, so we've lost the effects of nickel shortage 1 and got the effects of nickel shortage 2. Isn't that special? Rubber shortage is getting bigger. Okay, manganese. Another thing we have now, again, TRE has disabled trading of these specialist resources. You still, you know, if you own them, if you own zinc, or conquer territories that have zinc in them, or your faction members have them, you get these effects. You know, you'll get, like we have zinc currently, because we have a faction of one country basically in 1937, so we don't, and we have more metal and more supplies because of it. We don't have these others. Okay, well, I think it's fine. I don't know. I'd love to hear anybody else's thoughts, good, bad, or indifferent, on all of these. I get where they're coming from, and you know, the copper shortage was real. They had copper enough to do some of the stuff, but not to do everything they needed to. Sounds like a great way to get the Axis ships and aircraft torn up by tribal class destroyers and carrier-based air. At some point, HMS Warsprite will show up and start taking names. Okay, IKB. Now, we were talking about supplying North Africa. Well, the Germans would have one aircraft carrier in operation at the time, and that would be the aircraft carrier of Crete. How do I put this? Naval air operations do not require carriers. Naval air operations require, operationally, naval and air to be under the same command. That is what they require. I'm not saying the Germans had that, but, and okay, scratch this. Okay, I'm gonna. Well, no, I'll continue, but I'll make this short. Japan has 2 air forces. The U.S. has 2 air forces. The difference between Japan's 2 air forces and the U.S.'s 2 air forces is the Japanese Army had an air force. Actually, also the Japanese Army also had a bit of a navy too, but you know, ships manned and commanded by Japanese Army officers and soldiers, but and submarines too, commanded by Japanese Army officers and soldiers. But that's another thing. They had, the Japanese Army had an air force. They had their own aircraft types, and they were flying in support of the Japanese Army. The Japanese Navy had the Japanese Naval Air Force. And they even had fighter models that weren't capable of landing on carriers. They never even had tail hooks or whatever, and they were operating, land-based fighters as well as, float plane fighters and other things. Now, the U.S. has two air forces. One is, and even by World War II standards, is a very large air force, is the naval, and they actually quite honestly almost have three air forces, or four air forces. I can identify four air forces within the United States during World War II. The U.S. Coast Guard is flying their own aircraft, mostly along the coast, mostly looking for submarines, but also other sort of looking for, rescuing people from sunk ships and other things. I think they're the ones, or is it the Navy that's flying most of the blimps? But there is a U.S. Coast Guard air component. That's very small, though. The United States Marine Corps has its own air arm. It's also rather small, but in existence. You can watch the old Baba Black Sheep or Black Sheep Squadron, whatever it's called in your area, about Pappy Boyington and the Marine Corps Air Force air arm. Okay, those are both fairly small in World War II scales. The two is the naval air arm and the Army Air Corps. You need a naval air arm to have it integrated into your naval operations, so they need their operations. Now, the U.S. Army Air Corps is technically a subdivision of the Army, but it is much more de facto its own branch of service. It's not quite like the Royal Air Force as being truly its own, or the Luftwaffe as being its truly own branch of service, but it is a it's nearly independent. It's doing strategic bombing. It's doing its own planning and operation outside of any desires of the Army. It's doing its own stuff, and only really the Supreme Theater Commander, Eisenhower, who does have control of naval assets in the European theater, just like the two Supreme Commanders, the American Supreme Commanders in the Pacific. There are two of them. One is Nimitz, and he controls at least a couple of Army divisions, but mostly Navy and Marines, and does control some Army or Air Corps assets. And the other Supreme Commander in the Pacific is MacArthur, and he controls naval assets as well as Army and Army Air Corps, as well as Allied assets. Now, during the Battle of Midway, the Army Air Corps flies a bunch of bombers over and reportedly sinks a bunch of Japanese carriers. And they tell the world this. Well, they didn't hit a single goddamn carrier. They were useless. They just knew they went over, saw carriers in their bombing sites, dropped bombs on them, flew home. Then heard reports, hey, carriers got sunk. Must have been our bombs. Well, it wasn't, in my opinion, the fault that they weren't naval bombers or aircraft operators trained to operate over the Pacific, because they were operating over the Pacific and whatnot, is because the Army Air Corps in that operation as part of the attack during the Battle of Midway, which was a naval engagement, is the Army Air Corps was not operationally under the command of the Navy. It was not well coordinated with the command of the Navy. So that was its problem. And the problem with Italy and not having carriers and having being an inferior area or operation often with regards to air to the British is not because they didn't have carriers. I think still to this day the Italian Navy is not allowed to operate fixed wing aircraft, so they've got to borrow aircraft for a carrier. And if they're going to do it, they're going to have Italian Air Force fighters operating off of an Italian naval carrier. That is the problem. From all of my readings about Italy and the Mediterranean naval warfare, is the Italian Air Force shows up and sometimes actually does quite good and is quite useful, but then it goes away because it's there's submarines out here. We're going to fly some ships out or some aircraft out here and bomb them. Great, good, and we go home. Instead of having the Navy, saying, oh, these aircraft, whatever they're, fighters, bombers, whatever, are now temporarily under command of this naval commander. And have the naval commander says, no, we don't want all your aircraft right now. We want 4 aircraft. And in 2 hours, we want another 4 aircraft. And in 2 hours after that, we want another 4, because presumably they can fly around for 2 hours above the convoy or something. So that there is always an aircraft over that convoy during daylight hours and is showing up at the crack of dawn or before dawn, so that they're in the air before dawn. Is the lack of operational integration between Navy and air. So the idea that the British carrier-based air is something that the Germans lack. What the Germans lack is, and it's because of Göring as well as other things, is good integration between naval operations and air operations. So had you assigned, not just for an hour or for a day, but operationally, had you assigned air units to be, scheduled, operated under Navy command, that would allow your connectivity and could deal with any British carriers, and of course sink HMS Warspite if it gets within range. And so that is the problem, and that is the weakness of Germany and everything. Okay, sorry we got off on another diversion here. Air liaison is advanced. Very nice. Okay, 37. Let's move this over to close air support. Now IKB says maybe you want to reevaluate resource training. Not yet, IKB. Okay, railroad network advance. Let's look at the okay, that's 38. We're just in the beginning of 37. So let's stop that for the moment, and we can come down here maybe and do tactical air support, since that's a 36 technology. During the Spanish Civil War, and I know I've talked about this a little bit, but I've only recently, as in the last 3 or 4 months, or whatever. Time flies. I learned about the setting. The Germany sets up sort of a certain level of control over Spanish resources during the Spanish Civil War, and basically it's Germany gets control over the resources and determines sort of who it gets sold to. Now this is okay. My understanding is Germany sends down. Okay, just where do we start? Germany is sending arms and munitions to Franco. Franco, of course, doesn't have huge amounts of cash, to buy all this stuff. To be able to pay for it or help pay for it, Germany is setting it. They set up a monopolistic corporation that's going to deal with. There's one for both on one side in Germany and one side in Spain, but are both set up that are going to deal with selling of resources like things like tungsten and chromite or whatever it might be, set up. And this company is going to have monopolistic control in Spain and who gets to buy it and at what price. So Franco can't get the best price for the materials. He can't decide, oh, well, somebody in America will pay twice what Germany's paying. We'll sell them to America. No, because you're not going to get your arms, Franco. So this company gets set up, and it controls virtually all scale production of resources in Spain, dealing with definitely for exports. So, and this is mainly for exports, I would say. Now, Germany does, while the Spanish Civil War, like in 1937, when they acquire some major territories, Germany does send out some specialists to evaluate the conditions of the mines or the refining factories, processors, and whatnot. But they're not. But even with all of this, they're still not properly in control. They're, as far as I can tell, they are just sending down evaluators, a few people to come in to sort of see what's going on, to see how it's going, and they're just controlling the export and who gets to buy it. Okay, well, to a point, we could almost say Spain is in the German-Italian faction, almost. Not quite. So we could look here at, I don't know if there's any particular, because this is where I guess Portugal does have the main amount of or tungsten. I guess there isn't enough of one here right now in Spain. I don't know. I thought there should be one in Spain. I thought they would have some more critical resources. I guess they don't, at least not there. The way I look at this is Germany does not have that same ability to control what happens to France's aluminum or whatever. So it needs political control, not just purchasing control. That is how I'm defining it different than they are. They're saying money is having that level of control. I'm going no. Okay, medium and 20 research. Medium fuel tank. Okay, and we're not going to do bombers right now. And engine airframe. Okay, both of those. So we could do the bombers, but we're doing the 1937s. We're trying to be efficient about this. We will do 38, but well, I don't know. Bombers. Yeah, we'll do that first. Efficient research first. Oh, we have a little more capabilities before we push into useful but less efficient. Okay, yeah, we want to do bigger bombs. Everything I try to do with TRE, I'm trying to make it historical. That is the overwhelming goal. And interesting and fun, but armament, I think, gun position, twin engine airplane, which we're actually going to shift that down to gun ability. I just don't evaluate it as trading. Fire control, okay, 37. We need a little more thing to get there, but that's still efficient, so we'll let that continue. Okay, TB, torpedo boat class. Advances. And small warship engines. Yeah, we'll go with that. Yes, you can have energy, Bulgaria. So we can see down here, aluminum, once we get them in our alliance, uranium. See, I just don't see Poland or Czechoslovakia giving enough control over the resources to Germany. Petroleum refinery. Okay, well, chromite. A lot of aluminum down here. And we already have, you know, buying and selling rare materials, which I see that as the, you know, the reasonable thing to do between non-faction members. Again, remember, don't let the clock run if you can help it while having the production screen open. I see we're down at 0 spies, so let's come here, and we have, well, basically 0 diplomats. We have 90. So I think what we're going to do, well, let's lock this. Well, no, let's unlock that. We really don't need lots of officers right now. Let's see if that'll be enough to get us back into the positive. Okay, coastal submarines. Well, maybe we'll reduce this down a bit. 38, 38, 37. Okay, yeah, I think we will reduce this down a bit as well. There we go. Okay, so we're not going to do more coastal submarine. What was, okay, close air support prototypes, probably grayed out. No, but we're going to stop that anyways. And airport capabilities. Stop that for the moment. Okay, that gives us a little free research. Could go back to air liaison, but I don't know just yet. A lot of 37s there, yes, but why? We'll do some of these. We'll work through these. Do you think you could design a back end to resources trading to make it more along the lines of what you want? Now, Trying to think how to say this. Okay. And I guess, because I know IKB is a smart person and he's not getting what I'm meaning here. Germany has a copper shortage, okay? I've known for years Russia has a copper shortage. That's why they do a lot of steel ammunition. But Germany has a copper shortage. It's not a no copper, but it's not enough copper to make all of the copper jackets for the bullets that they want to shoot out of their rifles and machine guns, and not enough copper to make all of the brass casings with brass generally, and it's an alloy, but generally it is copper and tin mix. Tin gives it a little bit more rigidity, I believe. And there can be other things, and I am far from a metallurgist, but they just don't have enough to deal with this scale of that and everything else they need copper for. They have copper. They have nowhere near enough for what their needs to be. Okay, so they don't have enough copper. Now, how are they going to get enough copper and still make this a realistic, playable war game? Because we can talk about having too much oil here already, potentially, or too much steel, or too much coal, and not being a limited factor. Is German influence enough that they can come to Canada and the companies here and go, hey, yeah, you have this copper factory here. You know, I say factory because, and partially because I'm looking here, it's not just that there's mines, that's part of it, but it's also the refining process and creating copper ingots. You know, hey guys, we need you to like triple the size of your production here, Canada. Oh, we'll give you cash for it. We'll give you all kinds of cash for it. And the company here in Canada may go, sure, no problem. Wanted refining personnel to come live in frozen ice conditions. Wanted miners, copper miners wanted to come live in frozen ice conditions. You, of course, come get the benefits of digging under the ground for 12 hours a day. You'll love it. It'll be an adventure. It'll be a holiday. Come and mine copper. And all the farmers are going, what the fuck? I want to grow my wheat. And when it gets too cold, I'm going to stay inside. And then when it gets spring again, I'll plant some wheat and I'll grow some wheat and I'm going to be a farmer. Or, hey, I'm going to be an accountant and I'm going to live down here in Toronto. Or I'm going to be a jazz musician and live in Toronto. I'm not going to become a copper miner. Fuck you. I'm a jazz musician. I'm not going to be a copper miner. But Germany is paying us money, dude. They're going to pay us money. Well, Canada government, Germany's going to pay us money if we dig out more copper. Canada government, I mean, nowadays they go, sure, we're Trudeau, you know, we're going to put all kinds of authoritarian stuff on you. But yeah, no, it's still back when Canada was somewhat free. No, we're not going to force the farmer, the accountant, and the jazz musician to come and be a copper miner. We're just not going to do that. You know, I know they'll pay you billions of Reichsmarks, or maybe they're selling radios to America and they'll pay you billions of dollars. But however, whatever money you're willing to accept for the copper, we're not going to force people to come mine copper for you, dude. You know, we're just not going to do that. Okay, sorry. We know that Germany wants it. Oh, and at the same time, you also have the Soviet Union wanting to buy copper. Well, I see they have copper here. I don't know. But they do have copper shortages for their need. And I don't know, maybe France is trying to buy copper and Romania is trying to buy copper from Canada, and everybody's trying to buy copper from Canada in this trading system, or however it sort of works. I know it's evolved over time. how, that just, Germany, no matter how much money, or even Britain at this time, however much money they want to throw around, though Canada, once Canada is not yet in the Allies faction, but once it gets there, then things are different. But they're still sort of independent. But let's change this up. Let's get back here. What is this? Zinc? Yes, zinc. We don't have copper, but we need zinc as something of a substitute. Poland, we've just conquered your nation. Those zinc mines? Hey, there's people living over in this city in Krakow? Move 10,000 of them over here to the mines. What? You don't want to? Bop, 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 bop. Okay, see those other 10,000 people? Move them to the fucking mines now and start digging the goddamn copper out. You don't have shovels? Use your freaking fingers. Get the goddamn copper out or we're going to shoot you. Okay? And of course, Germany's a nasty enough country. They do basically that, with Soviet prisoner of wars, Jews, Poles that they can script off the street, because they periodically collect a bunch of hostages, Polish people, and well, hey, if there's any active resistance, we're going to shoot these people. Well, in the meantime, they get to go dig in the copper mine until we'll pull them out and shoot them in case there's an active resistance, and you kill a German soldier, we'll kill 20 Poles or whatever it is. Okay, so you see the idea of control. And yes, I'm overstating it to try to make my point. I look at not the selling of this, a rare material, that if this nation has an excess of, that then somebody can show up with money that they're willing to take, which is obviously this money here. If they have an excess of this money in this game, and your diplomatic relations are good enough, because if they're bad, they won't do it. But if your diplomatic relations are good enough, they will sell you rare materials. And sure, it would be nice, because there are a lot of nice improvements in Hearts of Iron 4, if this wasn't just rare materials, but if it was rubber, and if it was I don't know if copper is enough of a rare material, but if it's tungsten or whatever, sort of some of the rare materials in Hearts of Iron 4. And of course, you could add more in Hearts of Iron 4, rare materials. And that kind of thing, if there's an excess amount of it, they can sell it. That makes sense. That is the difference, is the control level. And I'm going to presume, whether rightfully or wrongly, faction members will go out of their way to help other faction members. So if Italy is controlling, because they get some of this territory here, is controlling a lot of aluminum, and it's no longer whether you have the aluminum here nowadays, if you notice, because we've gone to zinc level 2, and we could do another zinc level mine. We'll do, oh shit, well, how big of an airport hit? 5. Oh, this is something called June. Okay, well, 5 months. Oh, I'm going to reduce this down. This is, see some of the stuff. 5% of ICs to increase airport levels. Okay, there is some infrastructure with increasing airport levels, but a lot of it is freaking just pouring some concrete slabs. And yeah, making a few hangar buildings. I know there's some refueling stuff, but it ain't 5% for 5 months of Germany's resources. So either I want to make because airports are different than the railways or roads. Because I was going to say moving bombs from the factory to the airports. Now that's already handled under the either railroads or roads. So airport levels are going to become cheaper. I mean, dirt cheap in TRE now. because I'm not buying 5% for 5 months. 1% for 5 months. Okay. 2% for 2 or 3 months, or 2.5% for 2 or 3 months. Okay. But we'll probably just go down to 1% for 5 months for the airport upgrades. I just don't see a lot of I mean, there's significant amounts, but not 5% of your industrial capacity of Germany at this point. Okay, gun ability. Twin engine airplanes have advanced. Didn't we just start that a little while ago? So we got that. Okay, that went fast because it is a level 1. Let's come back to that, get that up there. So that's sort of my evaluation is control. And and it's I guess it's something, it's the amount of zinc per IC level, or the amount of copper per IC level. So if you have huge numbers of ICs and not enough copper, you get worse effects or whatever. And I get that. That makes a certain amount of sense. Trying to simulate reality. But I just don't buy. So I'm even like thinking in South America. Outside, when the countries down there are not in the U.S., yeah, the U.S. is Big Daddy America, but there's still a lot of local corruption, a lot of local politics that even if America politically or in just, the big industries of America still face a lot of resistance in moving into South America for various reasons. And we can see the literal banana wars in which, what is it? Dell Banana is buying up plantations and organizing them together and bribing national leaders to make good deals for themselves to export bananas, that then there's rebels, and then America, that rebels against, the corporations taking over the land, rightfully or wrongfully, but taking it over and controlling the situation down there, that there's local rebels rise up against them, and then U.S. Marines go in and fight the local rebels. We see that, and those are in Central American countries, not in South American countries. Central America and Caribbean countries, islands, that is happening with, but like in the Dominican Republic, but we're not seeing that in South America. So I'm looking at, unless Brazil or Argentina or Chile or whatever, and eventually they will and do, if they join the faction of America, then yes, America has that level of reach in there to do that kind of stuff, but not until then, in my opinion. Submarine classes advance. And I hope IKB or anybody else wasn't too offensive in the way I was shooting down your idea, but guess that's just standard submarine classes. It's all 38, 37. I don't really care about anti-air at the moment. So small ship technology will do that. And Romania will give you metal, sure, and we'll give you energy. This time an airport equals flat field building tent for check-in hangar. Yeah, but I'm also taking this as the idea of maintenance sheds, actual, tools, literally tools just made and sitting there, maintenance sheds of some sort that have hoists or cranes to like take out an engine and put a new engine in, and dollies that move engines around, and vehicles that can push and pull an aircraft around, and fuel storage on, near the airport there, and then like tanker trucks or just trucks, however you're moving the fuel from the fuel storage there to the aircraft efficiency, to not just your scramble, your dispersed air bases of Hurricane and Spitfires, for the Battle of Britain. I'm talking about infrastructural developments at the airports, sure. And so But I understand your point. Just didn't fully agree. And you don't, hey, IKB. No one has to agree with me. You know, that's not a requirement to be my friend or to be a viewer here. It's just why I so viscerally objecting to the capitalistic elements of that trading situation, where I see it as a political element that gets you, you know, is control, or, you know, whether it's Big Daddy America controlling the faction, or, you know, I don't know, Great Führer Germany controlling the faction, or whatever, that puts pressures on whether it's Italy or you smaller, you know, faction members to give up your zinc, we need it, or give up your whatever, we need it more than you do, you know, to feed our resources, that kind of thing. And that is where you could say you two are not on track. Yes, good, Arno. And yeah, we can disagree, but that just to the point is why I am just like. And I also look at, and you know, you could artificially say, you know, oh, we just had a crash. Oh, shit. Oh, okay, let me come and look here. I think it was on a save, wasn't it? Okay. Save games. Yes, last save is 0 size. Damn. Let's delete that out. You always want to... Oh, no, don't want to change the name. Delete. Always want to delete a 0 size save. Off the rails. Well, guys, you know, I think we're going to end this here. I know we're on a black screen. My voice is getting a bit rough, and you have to replay just, I mean, I know we ended up talking, and that's maybe as much of the problem as anything else. So I'll take a look at this some other time. I want to thank you, IKB, Arno, anybody else still watching. Train your thoughts better. Ah, that's good. I like that. Yes, I do get it. I know, very good. Tomorrow will be War Thunder. If any of you want to show up, Arno, IKB will be playing. At least I'll be playing. And so see you guys then, those watching later on YouTube. Hope this was interesting and hope you get my points. Gotta try to remember, I want to reduce the effects of improving the air bases. They should be real costs, but 5% for 5 months of all German industrial development. And there's going to be multiple levels of it. It's not just that, and we have super air bases all over, or super airports all over, but yeah. War Thunder Naval, maybe towards the end, once everybody else is left, Arno. Because, you know, viewers go away, players go away if we do too much naval. I know you and I like it, but not everyone does. They do have some new aiming stuff I want to try out in naval, so we can see some of that maybe. So, let me borrow you on Discord. Okay. Okay, guys, so everyone watching later, remember to like, subscribe, share. See you next time.